First story, 5 weeks from DDay. Hi all, I found this channel a few weeks ago. I've been a complete mess since DDay, but it's gotten considerably worse since Friday. Apologies for the novel incoming and if I'm all over the place. My wife, 44F, and I, 45M, have been together for 26 years, married for 16. I'm a retail manager, she's a paraprofessional. We met at work while we were in college. I climbed the ladder at work to bring in money to support us through our 20s while she floated around looking for something fulfilling. When she found her job at the school, she began to flourish. My wife has dealt with major depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideations throughout our entire marriage. I have always tried to be her protector and have been her biggest advocate through all these years. I have tried to be strong for her while dealing with my own demons, putting her needs before my own time after time. I have been the breadwinner for the entirety of our marriage, which led to many discussions about her feeling guilty she relies on me so much. I didn't want her to feel financially controlled or dependent on me, so we came up with a plan. Our plan was that I would stay in my job, which I hate, as my income was over double hers. She would return to school for her own growth, personal and financial. Afterwards, I would return to school so I could find something more fulfilling for myself. She returned to school about 16 years ago and she has grown so much. Her confidence has grown immensely. She's turned into a social butterfly. She found new friendships with co-workers and over the past 6 years, developed authentic friendships with friends she considered mine beforehand. I've been nothing short of happy and proud of her. Last year my wife invited a co-worker to join a band that consisted of her and two of my best friends, one of 20 years and one of 18. In December, I was invited to a birthday party for my WW's work friend. When I arrived, it was complete debauchery. The birthday girl was trashed, everyone was making sexual jokes and being very flirtatious, with my WW even joining and making a comment about being tossed around. Eventually they got kicked out and we made our way back to her friend's house where the birthday girl, also married, proceeded to mime giving a blowjob to another co-worker. Birthday girl's now confirmed emotional affair partner. When we got home, I told her how the night made me very uncomfortable. She did not take it well and I stopped being invited out. At some point in the beginning of the year, I became concerned about the closeness of my WW with co-worker bandmate friend, but at this point, he had been completely integrated into our friend group and was involved in nearly every social aspect of our life. Despite my suspicions, I humored his attempts at befriending me, accepting his requests on socials and texting and making sure to include him in social plans. In February I felt a distance growing between the two of us. I began to sense a disconnect. I began my investigation. I checked her phone 3 times over a 4-month period, for the first time in 26 years. The first time I checked, I was alarmed at the frequency at which they were communicating through social media, which dwarfed our communications. I brought up the fact that I was uncomfortable and that he might have feelings for her. She denied and was defensive, saying, "Well, I just won't have any friends anymore." Clearly not what I wanted, so I dropped it. The distance continued to grow as well as my suspicions. I checked her phone again at the end of March. Again, nothing damning, but I did see that he was inviting her out alone, without the band, without friends, for coffee, etc. I talked to her that night about my uneasiness about their friendship and told her I was struggling. I asked her if he had been asking her out one-on-one, to which she said no. I asked her at the very least not hang out with him alone. I tried to believe her and trust that she could navigate this situation without me, so much so that I checked myself into IC so that I could work on my issues with trust and paranoia. Things became worse. Their friendship only seemed to grow and I became more distant and depressed. We had many hard conversations over the next 2 months that kept leaving me more and more unsure. The weekend leading up to DDay, she was completely detached. She was avoidant and distant. We had made plans to meet with friends for a parade. She did not bring me into the loop at all. During the parade, her work friends showed up and she tried to disappear. I found them just before they left and joined them for a drink. After we had our drinks, they decided to go to another place for more, but she asked me to return to our other friend group. I knew something was off. After a few hours, she returned to us. That's when the band friends brought up the night before how the co-worker bandmate had broken up with his girlfriend of 12 years. Alarm bells started ringing. I did my best to hold it together through the rest of the night. In the morning I woke up with the gut feeling. I checked her phone and found 1,700 deleted text messages confirming a full-blown emotional affair. I confronted her. She said she was going to talk to me that day about how she's been unhappy for a while. She loves me but doesn't know she's in love with me. She feels as if we've grown apart. She wants to be independent, etc. Nearly every canned response I've seen in these situations. She apparently was planning to go to a neighboring state to take a few days to give me space, the same state he lives in. I told her if she goes we're through. I reached out to my friends in the band and asked if they knew this whole time. They did not but wanted to be supportive to both of us. After talking in circles, I told her if she wants to be independent, she can decide what to do. She practically whispered she didn't want to be married and decided to go stay with her mother for night. At some point she turned off her location and I noticed around 7:30 p.m. I called her. She didn't pick up. I called her mom who said she went out to get some food. I asked her mom to tell me when she got back. A bit after midnight her mom texted me saying she's sorry she fell asleep, but that wife was back. The next morning WW texted apologizing she didn't pick up, that she was out driving around trying to clear her head. She said she missed me and the cat and wanted to come home. I was a mess and that's all I wanted. She came home, we were intimate and went to bed. We talked the next morning about fixing our marriage and working on ourselves. I asked both her and the emotional affair partner to take a break from their friendship. She was going to meet with the emotional affair partner and tell him in person they needed to take a break from their friendship and that they would go no contact for a while. The day after their conversation was my birthday. She was anxious and distant all day. She kept trying to talk about me focusing on myself and how I can't base my life around her. This sent me spinning. When did it become wrong to support your partner? I want to focus on myself, but my opportunity to do so, which was so close, has been stripped away from me. I cannot think about changing careers without the security of our partnership, which is very much unstable. I tried checking her phone the next morning, but all of her passwords had been changed. Red flag. I confronted her and learned that we still texting and communicating those socials. Through some deduction I discovered she was deleting texts and she admitted as much. She said she was exhausted of talking about all of this and shut down. I gave it a break and told her I wouldn't be speaking to her until she was ready. She spent the next day talking to our friends and trying to do damage control. We had a trip planned for her schoolwork. She was going across country for 2 weeks. I was going to go the first week and help her get settled for the following week. We decided it would be best for me not to go so that we could have some space and figure out what we wanted. I agreed not to go, fearing that I had let her come home too quickly, and that distance may give her some perspective and be helpful towards us healing. I continued to use what resources I had to try and figure out what she was doing while I was at work. I reached out to the emotional affair partner SBP and we met to exchange information. I knew a lot more than she did, and when we left, I said go ahead and do what you need to with this info. I am curious to see if they will communicate. By the time I got home she already knew. She was mad and said I didn't need to involve the other BP because they had nothing to do with the situation. A week before the flight, I checked her emails through her Google account on her school laptop. They had still been communicating, her helping him find an apartment after the fallout from the BP finding out. I also found an email planning a Skype date while she was out of state, so they could talk about their feelings for one another that they clearly had. I told her I was done. She didn't respect me, and started looking for apartments. She cried and begged me to stay. The following day, the emotional affair partner reached out to me to meet up. He was apologetic and gave me a sob story about his personal life. When I pressed him for information, he was vague and gave non-answers. When I got nowhere, I recounted the past few weeks and how we had been intimate multiple times. He became visibly distressed, ending our meetup, and said he wanted to talk again, but after he had time to talk to his BP and therapist. Saturday, the day before the flight, my WW told me she can't picture her life without me, and that she doesn't want to be with him. She asked me to go on the trip. Like an idiot, I went. One night we were playing some stupid date night card game. She drew a card asking her to describe her thoughts on open marriage. She said she understood the appeal and that sex was just sex. I didn't even know who I was looking at anymore. The following day, I checked her email again. After every time I've caught her, she's become more and more sneaky, but she slipped up and accidentally CC'd herself. It was an email rescheduling their video date. It was sent the first day we landed on our trip and said she was still figuring out her next steps. Exhausted and worried about ruining our Hail Mary trip, I did not confront her. I dropped hints that I knew, and the day I left, I started talking about the logistics of our separation. She went nonverbal and started to cry. I resisted every urge in my body to comfort her. Things were mostly uneventful the week I returned home. She kept up communication with me throughout the week, until Friday morning. I received a text from the other BP asking me to talk to my WW and enforce actual NC, since they were going to try and reconcile. Her name kept popping up, and the other BP wanted it to stop so they could have a chance at her. I told WW I needed to talk to her privately. I wasn't going to do it over text. She instantly asked if I hated her. I told her the answer to that has been no, and continues to be no. She then asked who I talked to. I told her we'll talk when she has a moment to call. 8 hours later, and she was an anxious mess. I told her I talked to the other BP, and that I needed the truth no matter how much it might hurt me. I asked what physical things happened. She told me she kissed him and held hands. That was it. I told her to choose her next words carefully. She said, I don't want to say you'll leave me. I told her just say it. She told me the day of D-Day, she went to his house and they slept together, but that was the only time. I shut down and ended the conversation. She continued to text me all night, pleading and begging. I had told the other BP I found something out. She said after the great day they had, she wasn't sure, she wanted to know. I left her on red and started texting the AP. I gave him an ultimatum: tell me everything or I will tell his BP. He lied through his teeth and accused me of being manipulative, that he didn't know who he could trust, and that he wanted it all to be over. He never told me anything, and he desperately tried to get in contact with my WW. At this point she had blocked him on everything and he was unsuccessful. I told him I knew and that she was begging me not to leave. He said that doesn't add up to what she told him. I showed him texts. He stopped responding and the deadline I gave him passed. Out of respect for other BP I didn't end up telling her, but I sent him a text telling him off in great length and telling him to disappear. I guess the next morning he showed his BP the text and they both reached out to my WW and asked if she was okay. This sent me spiraling further. He tried calling me at work and then blocked me on everything. I wasn't able to get in contact with him again. She got home Monday morning. She slept on the couch. I went through her phone a final time. All traces of BP had been deleted. I looked through her group chat with her work friends. I saw that they had been actively supporting this affair and were even laughing at me. When they said untrue things about me, she didn't correct them, and they even acted as a liaison for her on the AP. They admonished me for invading her privacy and called me psycho. I left for work without speaking to her. We texted throughout the day, and when I got home, all of our wedding photos and decorations I had boxed up were put back up. We sat and talked casually for a bit before we got in bed and were intimate. I went to work the next morning, and when we got home we were intimate. She wanted to pretend like things were normal, but I had told her we were going to talk that night. I had told her I wasn't sure I wanted her to come home because I wasn't sure I could control myself from using her a verbal punching bag and asking stupid questions. Our talk was mostly productive. I talked to her about her work friends, but of course, I couldn't help myself and started to ask about that night. I asked if she brought a toothbrush, if she stayed the night, and finally if she enjoyed it. She said she didn't want to answer that question. I asked her if she thought about moving in with him. She said she did. I went to bed and printed divorce papers this morning. I am so lost and unsure of what to do next. She wants to go to marriage counseling and is back in IC. She has removed all passwords on her phone, but I'm so exhausted and done with looking through her phone. Plus she has been deleting everything anyway. She says she will give me time and will never stop trying. She says nothing I can do will hurt her more than she's already hurt herself. She's looking for a new job. She said I can do it to her too. In my mind, a ONS will never be equivalent to a half-year courtship, and I won't enjoy it. I can't stop imagining that night and her betrayal. How this trickle truth has absolutely destroyed any trust I have in her. These dating apps are making me sick. Thanks for reading. I have no idea what to do next. I don't know if I want to, or I know at this point I am still scared to lose her and all the change that will entail. I know she's scared of losing everything, and I can't trust that she's not just in survival mode. Any insight from WP or BP would be welcomed. Second story. Did my ex-girlfriend, 40F, sleep with someone 2 days after we broke up? My girlfriend, 40F, did something right away after our breakup. What do you guys think? So me and my girlfriend broke up and decided to still keep in touch as friends. We both agreed on not moving on right away to not hurt the other person's feelings. So 2 days after our breakup, she told me she was going out to a bar with some friends, and I even double-checked with her that we won't do anything with anyone else when she was on the way to meet up with her friends. She said yes, don't worry, John. She even told me she would call me when she got home, because she knew I'd be worried. So while she was out, maybe at about midnight, I saw she got a new follower on Instagram. She had followed him back and he had liked her picture. So obviously I sent her the screenshot and asked, WTF is this all about? All she replied with was, John, stop it. I got angry and didn't say anything. I ignored her for the rest of the night because I had a bad feeling. I stayed up until 4 a.m. waiting for her to call me, but she never called me. So I said fuck it, I'm calling her. Then she hung up on me and sent me a text saying she was staying at her friend's house. She would never do this when we were still together. She had no problems reassuring me no matter the time or situation. She would always pick up the phone. I called a few more times but got no answers. She eventually blocked my number after texting me several times asking me to stop calling. I thought this was so weird because if she was just with her friend, why could she not just answer the phone and save herself from all the accusations? It would be so easy. It would even take less time to answer the phone than it takes to hang it up and text me several times. So the next morning when she woke up, I tried calling her again, and again she didn't answer the phone but immediately texted me back. I said I know you brought that guy home last night, but she refused. I told her to show me a picture of her room to verify that nobody was there, because I had a strong suspicion that someone was with her, and that is why she didn't pick up the phone. She sent me a picture from her room, but she only showed me the wall in front of her. I immediately told her to send me a video recording everything around her. This is where she told me to stop it. This is where my suspicion grew even further. It takes the same amount of effort to record your surroundings as it takes to text a person. So why did she say stop it when I asked her to show me her room instead of just showing me right away? She called me on the phone an hour later and told me she would explain everything to me. She told me the guy who followed her was just a bartender who asked for her Instagram. And she also told me she had danced with someone that night, not the bartender, and that they had also kissed. She told me she never brought someone home, and she was just drunk and got embarrassed that her friend would see me spam calling her, and that is why she didn't answer the calls that night. So eventually I FaceTimed her. I told her to screen share her phone and show me around her phone, because I didn't believe the story about the guy she told me she just danced and kissed with. So she said agreed to do it. She showed me everything that I asked her to show me, until I asked her to enter the DMs with the guy who followed her that night. She immediately turned her screen share off and deleted the conversation. 10 minutes later, she told me she had sent him a DM asking him if she could have the next round for free. I believe she told me the DM was about free drinks because the evidence was deleted, and I would have no way to prove otherwise. So my gut is telling me there would be evidence of a lot more than asking for free drinks in the conversation. What do you guys think?